So how are you? How's things?
Good, good. How's New Zealand?
Yeah, New Zealand is going all right, mate. Yeah, it's going okay. Things are picking up finally, but I've only just got over here, so it's coming up to a couple of months.
Are you done with moving and settling in and whatnot?
Yeah, finally got like a place, and out of an Airbnb and things like that. So
Nice.
setting my roots, actually settling in.
Are people able to guess which country you're from there?
They think I'm German. But
You'll have to excuse the cough,
that's all right, man.
but
That's all right.
no big deal.
I think they think I'm German because obviously I'm blonde haired and blue eyes. They're being a bit racist.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't have guessed you're Greek, so I guess
yeah,
that's it.
similar.
Yeah, man.
So how do you usually start off your
However, man,
episodes?
this is a conversation. You know what I mean? Um, Pretty
I mean,
much,
do you start the episode somehow with an intro, or are we in the episode right now?
we're in, man. Of course,
Ah,
we're in.
this is it. Okay,
This is it,
gang.
man. Yeah.
This
So,
is it.
fucking, I remember talking to Zoan, and he sort of gave me an insight into what you do, man, and you got a lot of shit going on. So, just explain like who you are and what you do, and give me a little intro, man.
Okay. So my name is Pak. Well, my actual name is Patroklos Androulakis Kourakakis, but everybody calls me Pak.
Yeah, we'll go with Pac.
I'm yeah. Um, I'm currently I'm currently doing a PhD in at Solent University in Southampton, UK.
hmm
Can you hear any background noise?
No, no, you're good, man. I can sit here a bit of clicking, but you're alright. You crack on.
Let me just give me 1 second, just so I make sure. There we go. Yeah, so I'm currently doing a PhD in sports science on the topic of the minimum effective training dose required to increase one repetition maximum strength in powerlifters at
Wow.
Southampton Solent University. Basically, what's the least a powerlifter can do
hmm
and still increase their strength meaningfully. So it's also about finding what is regarded as meaningful, because it's something that is currently unclear, not very clear in the literature.
hmm
Um, I'm currently teaching at Solent and Winchester University, both down here at the south coast of England, teaching a wide range of subjects like strength and conditioning, research methods, a bit of sport nutrition, and a couple of foundation courses.
hmm
Um, and I also coach a few strength athletes, as well as other athletes that are interested in increasing their strength on the side, something that I really enjoy. And I strength train myself, do occasional powerlifting here and there, but mostly general strength training. And as I said, my passion is, well, I didn't say it, but my passion is research and teaching around strength training and anything that we can learn about increasing strength, especially in the strength trained populations.
Fuck,
Sorry,
that's a
that
lot
was
on
a
the
very
plate.
yeah. I like to eat no, but it's just the way it was presented. It sounded a bit more I don't know, hectic than it should have.
Yeah, yeah. So how'd you like manage your time with all that? You got obviously got a lot going on and that. So how'd you fucking not burn out?
So I'm lucky and unlucky enough to have. I also do another job. So I work as a research and development officer in a company at a
hmm
company, which has a working from home arrangement.
hmm
So that's my other main job, which allows me to kind of work on my own time.
hmm
So on one hand, I have the flexibility of let's say waking up whenever,
Yeah.
but that also comes with the burden of being completely responsible for when the work for what gets done and when it gets done. So it's not a case of okay, show up for 9 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours and
Yeah,
then go
yeah,
home. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, okay, get up. If you feel like doing nothing today, you can do nothing, but you know that next day you got even more on your plate. Um, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I'm still learning how to manage everything, and
Mhm.
it sometimes it does seem like a bit too much, but it's kind of like like training. So it will vary and it will come it comes in waves or in
Mhm.
phases. So
Mhm.
there may be like a few weeks, like a couple of weeks back to back, where I will feel like I have a ton on my plate, and I'll sometimes ask myself, am I overdoing it by doing this and also taking this on top?
Mhm.
But then I'll have a couple of weeks where, let's say, on the teaching side, things will kind of relax, or I'll finish writing off the paper, or finish off the study or the data collection for one of the studies of the PhD, and I'll have 3 weeks where on that side things will be more relaxed, so it will kind
Mhm.
of balance out.
Yeah, yeah.
But it comes down to planning. I keep a lot of to-do lists,
Mhm.
um, and I try to be honest with myself in terms of what I can achieve throughout the day. So I try to set small tasks, but not say, okay, yeah, I'd love to do this and this and this and that, and then end up doing only half of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel you. Because then you're just setting yourself up for failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then it starts getting to you
Mhm.
after a
Mhm.
certain point. So if you say, yeah, and that was also another, again, it relates back to training, another mistake I would often make when doing my own training plan. So I never made that mistake with others, but with myself, I would say, yeah, I will do 4 sets of heavy squats, then we'll do RDLs, then we'll do overhead press, then we'll do more leg work, and by the second exercise, I'd be like, yeah, there's no chance I'm doing what I've written down on
Yeah,
this piece of paper.
yeah. You're fucked. Yeah,
But
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure I've done that a load of times. The amount of times I've done that, I've written down, oh yeah, I'll do this and that.
yeah,
And then you get there and you're absolutely knackered. You know what I mean?
exactly. But
So
again,
what?
I'm still learning to how to manage everything. There's days where I'm super productive and things are getting done and I'm taking things off lists, and there are other days where I can barely finish what I've set for the day,
Hmm.
or but I try my best to do as much as possible.
Hmm.
But one thing that I need to work on is focus on not being uh, distracted,
Hmm.
because at the same time I'm trying to keep up a certain presence on social media, and when you're involved in so many different things from different sort of areas, you
Hmm.
get you get messages, emails, calls from all kinds of people. I might get 2 messages from people that I coach, and then a call from work, and then 2 emails from the university. And it's like, when you sit down and say, okay, now I'm gonna sit here and write this paper or write this program, it can sometimes be difficult to focus on that one thing when then you suddenly get an email about something completely different.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to slowly learn how to kind of shut everything off and do one thing at a time.
Yeah, definitely. What I usually do if I've got something that I need to like crack on, everything else just gets like silenced, you know. Like I
Yeah.
turn my notifications off. Like there's no buzz. I like lock myself in a room or whatever, and then I just put like some music on, and then that's it. It's sort of go time.
I tried the notifications off
Mhm.
thing, and it backfired for me personally,
Mhm.
because I would then feel the need to check whether I've gotten a message or not. So
Yeah.
so then I was like, I found myself checking Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, and being like, oh, have I gotten a message? Let me check.
Mm.
And then it just became a habit. So I would
Mhm.
just check to check.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I think
get that. I get that. Definitely while I'm sleeping now, I've turned like
yeah,
basically turned it all off so I don't fucking get woken up at like 1 a.m. of
never sleeping is always do not disturb, and
Yep.
I also wear earplugs and a mask,
Oh wow.
a, a Bane mask.
How how much you sleep a night on average?
I'd say, well, I mean, based on, I try to track sleep, but with an app on my phone, which is not extremely accurate from what
Hmm.
I've seen. But I'd say an average of, I'll tell you what the app says. So the app says overall,
Hmm.
um, time in bed around 8 hours and 12 minutes. So time in bed, that's not
Yeah,
asleep. And an average, and sleeping around 7 hours.
decent. I
That's
mean,
okay, yeah.
it's better than worse, you know. It's better than 6 5 hours.
Yeah,
Um,
I
that's
I found that yeah, go on, actually, sorry.
no, I was just going to say that's something that I struggle with. Is kind of just switching your head off, you know, and actually being able to sort of zone out and drift off into sleep.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and then you wake up in the middle of the night because you've got something on your mind and you've got this piece of work to do or you wanted to do this project or whatever, and then it just sort of spirals in. And then obviously that's going to affect your training.
yeah, and that's especially present when, I mean, depending on what your professional sort of direction is,
Hmm.
even when you know that if you don't want to just become like and I'll use myself as an example so it's more I can explain it in a better way.
Hmm.
Like I do not want to become just a professor or just an academic. I want to do my coaching and also have my own website and do this and do the other. So I know that there's a lot of things that depend on extra effort and
Hmm.
ideas that will have to be done solely by me. So
Hmm.
sometimes I find that when I go to bed and I start thinking, it's like, okay, I haven't thought about this way, or what if I don't do this way and I do it the
Hmm.
other way?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but what has helped me is to go to bed. I try to go to bed only when well, I try to keep it consistent as possible, but
Hmm.
I try to do something that tires me before mentally.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and once I find myself in front of my computer screen or wherever, and I'm feeling like, okay, enough now,
Yeah,
then I'm ready for bed.
yeah.
Otherwise, if I go into bed with energy, just for the sake of going, let's say at 12 a.m.,
Hmm.
I might be there turning and twisting for like 2 3 hours.
Hmm. And you might as well be
Have,
productive in those 2 3 hours, you know.
yeah, and that's what I do now. Like if I feel productive, and that's also, I mean, it depends again. Like if you're working if you have to wake up at 7 a.m.
Hmm.
And you feel productive at 12 a.m. I mean, I guess you could argue that, yeah, if you'd rather be productive for 2 hours than turning and twisting in bed for 2 hours. But I understand how you might have to say, okay, push it, go to bed because you gotta get up in 7 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
But have you tried any supplements or
I
anything to help?
tried. I've tried ZMA before, and then I've tried just purely magnesium before, and both of them haven't worked for me.
Yeah,
Which is a bit strange. Like both of them have actually, well, magnesium maybe a tiny bit at the start, very early on taking it, but other than that, they used to wake me up. It was weird.
really?
Yeah, they used to literally do the opposite effect. I don't know if it was me thinking about it or what, but it wouldn't make me sleepy. The only thing that has worked for me is the CBD oil.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that from a few people.
Um, I can't remember what brand it was, but it was in Holland and Barrett in Southampton. It's just basically the cheap one that they had on special, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a go because everyone says it's pretty decent sort of thing. And yeah, taking it before bed used to just chill me out, and I used to just drift off. It was quite nice.
Okay. Yeah, I've
Um,
heard. I had a friend who recently had sleeping problems, and I mean, you might know him personally, Rico.
Rico. Yeah,
He's a
yeah, yeah,
barber.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, of course you know.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he had a problem sleeping, and he tried CBD oil. I mean, he was overdoing it with the dosing. because
Hmm.
he had he was like having shots of CBD oil, but
Okay.
no, he told me that it worked really well for him as well.
Yeah,
What I'm trying
that's
at the
good.
moment is melatonin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard of that.
So melatonin, 3 to 4 milligrams per night.
That
Uh,
knocks you out, though, eh?
no, not really. Like it's not one of those. Um, so I mean, I try to with any supplement I take, I go in fully with a huge buy-in. So I try to placebo it as much as possible.
Hmm.
So if I'm taking vitamin D3 and magnesium as well as fish oil as my other three supplements, and I'm telling myself that yeah, I'm gonna take this and it's gonna help
Hmm.
tremendously.
Hmm.
So likewise with the melatonin, I have like it's in the form of gummies, and I
Yeah.
have 3 gummies before bed, and I tell myself, okay, in 30 minutes it's gonna make me sleepy,
Yeah.
and it doesn't actually make me sleepy because there were a couple of instances where I was doing something and I forgot that I took it and I kept on working as normal.
Hmm.
But most times, I don't know. I mean, I've slept fine, so I guess it's helped at least to mentally tell me that yeah, we're gonna sleep well tonight.
Yeah, maybe it's just helped you like after even initially, sort of drifted off into sleep, it's allowed you to go into REM sleep a little bit easier, or who knows?
Possibly, but
Um,
also earplugs have been a game changer, especially if you live in a loud area.
yeah, I
But I
mean,
don't
in the
know.
in the
For
city,
me, it's anyways.
Um, yeah, earplugs is something I've not tried. Um,
Yeah,
to be honest, I've tried a little bit of like meditation, just trying to completely like dump all the thoughts out of my head and let go of it.
yeah. With me,
Um,
that always backfires.
yeah, I mean, again, it's just like everything, in it really, in it. You just gotta it's trial and error. If it's gonna work for you, then great, keep doing it. If it doesn't, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Same with the sups as well, in it really. Um, talk to me about your PhD though, man. That's real interesting about the minimum dose to improve like maximal strength. So what you finding?
So, okay. So originally, how should I start this? So the idea came from well, while doing the pilot study of the PhD, we kind of formulated uh, the idea.
Hmm.
Um, but aside from the studies that we're currently running and the one that we finished, I'd like to say a couple of words about the literature review part of it. So when starting the PhD, I had the question of what is the least a powerlifter or a strength trained athlete can do and still and increase their strength meaningfully
Hmm.
over a certain period of time. That was to be defined at that stage. But I knew that we were kind of trying to find the upper limit for other things, for example, like training volume for muscle hypertrophy. And in general, we're constantly in search of for the optimal. So
Hmm.
we're constantly looking for, and it makes sense. I mean, most people want to find the best and most efficient way to get the best results possible.
Yeah, 100%.
But what I was curious, what I really wanted to see was, can we? What's the least we as strength athletes or as powerlifters, in my case, can do, and in a short period of time, make significant or at least meaningful gains, strength gains. Um,
Yeah.
but again, doing the least work possible. So the first step was to ask that question, but ask the literature and see, okay, what do we currently know?
Hmm.
And that brought as a result a paper we recently published, which is my PhD literature review, which was published as a systematic review and meta-analysis called "The Minimum Effective Training Dose Required to Increase One Repetition, One Repetition Maximum Strength in Resistance Trained Men." And I basically just well, not by myself, but myself, James Fisher and James Steele, who both are my PhD supervisors, looked at the current available literature. I did most of the searching as well as the screening. Well,
Mm-hmm.
and what we basically found, I'm just trying, you hear a bit of confusion in my voice because I'm trying to say enough while not getting into too much detail.
Yeah, yeah, of
So,
course. I mean, you crack on, man.
so what we found was, I'll just read the conclusion of the paper. So the results of the present systematic review suggest that performing a single set of 6 to 12 repetitions with loads ranging from approximately 70 to 85% of 1 RM 2 to 3 times per week with high intensity of effort, meaning reaching volitional or momentary failure for 8 to 12 weeks, can produce suboptimal yet significant increases in squat and bench press 1 RM strength in resistance trained men. Um, some may ask why just in men and no and not women as well. And the response is that there was no data on women at all. What we basically
Wow.
did is we set our inclusion. We had a search strategy. So the way we went about searching for literature, we had certain inclusion criteria. So not every study was considered for this review, from my literature review.
Mm-hmm.
And the following criteria had to be met for inclusion. So we only looked at randomized trials,
Mm-hmm.
resistance training interventions lasting a minimum of 4 weeks that manipulated dose, meaning repetitions, sets, load, intensity of effort, etc. They had to have a maximum of one working set per exercise per training session. So we only looked at studies that per training session had one working set per exercise. A study population consisting of healthy men, well, at the beginning it was healthy women as well, with at least 1 year of resistance training experience, at least one of the power lifts being included in the training intervention. So despite the literature review being uh, from a more general perspective, so not looking at power lifters, that
Mm-hmm.
was obviously because there's no actual training study on with single sets with the inclusion criteria that I just listed on powerlifters. So we had to switch that to resistance trained individuals, which then was narrowed down to men. But because my PhD is on powerlifters,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the popularity of the power lifts, and the fact that they're used in other populations, and they are with the recent growth of strength training and programs like 5x5,
Yeah.
um, many people utilize the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. So we were looking for studies that included at least one of the power lifts in their intervention, and a 1 RM test to assess strength changes in the power lifts pre and post training intervention. And basically, then we I'm not gonna list the whole search strategy.
Yeah.
I'll give you a link to post, or if anybody Googles the name that I said at the beginning, they will find the paper online. But we basically then searched the internet, um, found a few papers. We were screened that were screened by me, um, excluded anything that was irrelevant. Titles and abstracts were screened twice to ensure that no relevant studies were missed. And afterwards, I reviewed any studies that we had selected for final inclusion. Then I one of my co-authors, James Steele, and I, we discussed all the possible exclusion inclusion of any articles, and then at the end, we ended up including. So I'll let you guess. Actually, we looked at 2,368. So I looked at 2,368 papers.
Mm-hmm.
After screening all of them and excluding 2,330, I screened. So I assessed 38 full texts for eligibility. So
Mm-hmm.
how many do you think made it in the review? So that's everything that we currently know about the minimum effective training dose for squat, bench, and deadlift.
How many made it in the review?
Yeah, from the 38 that were.
You're gonna say something daft, aren't you? You're gonna say like none.
No, I mean there had to be some.
Wow. Uh, go on.
6.
6. Damn.
Yeah, so not much, not many papers. Um, Anyways, so after obviously seeing that the current literature is limited,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what we can't when if we were to ask the question, if let's say I wasn't going to perform, I wasn't going to do any more studies or try to answer the question in any other way, and I just wanted to kind of not answer but half answer the question by seeing what the current literature says. The current literature says, and this is very limited literature. It says that you can perform if you do a set of 6 to 12 reps with a relatively kind of heavy weight, so from 70 to 85%, from 70 to 85% 1RM, 2 to 3 times per week, going to failure or a couple of reps, 1 or 2 reps shy of failure for 8 to 12 weeks, you can get significantly stronger than before, but your results may be suboptimal. Suboptimal meaning that if you were to do multiple sets, you could have possibly gained even more strength. So that's what we currently know. And following that, I then decided that okay, we need to look at more. We need to look at more advanced trainees, people with higher levels of strength, as well as look at the deadlift, because something that I forgot to mention is that none of the studies that were included in the review included the deadlift. So there was no data on the minimum effective training dose and the deadlift. Not
Why
that,
do you think? Why do you think
yeah,
that is?
that's I mean, there is one study by Fisher et al. That looked at the Romanian deadlift, but it's not the same as a conventional deadlift.
Yeah.
Uh, to be honest with you, I am not really sure. I think that the squat and bench press are more popular in the literature because the bench press is widely considered as a benchmark for upper body strength, and the squat and vice versa. And the squat is considered a benchmark lift for lower body strength.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the deadlift is not used very widely in the literature for that reason, possibly. I mean, many studies will use the squat to assess leg strength, and many studies will use the bench press to assess upper body strength. But yeah, I found it even one study utilizing a single set per session design to include the deadlift. To just include, I mean, it didn't have to be solely the deadlift. So many
Yeah.
of these studies, even though we were just looking at the squat and the bench press, they did include other exercises as well, which we listed. So, anyways, following that, we myself and the coach of a powerlifting team in Athens, Greece, which
Mm-hmm.
is not, I don't know if the team exists anymore officially.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't. But the team is called AEK Powerlifting, AEK, AEK. And him and myself, we ran a study using that powerlifting team, investigating uh, the effects of a daily max, so a heavy singles based training protocol versus a traditional powerlifting protocol in, let's say, beginner slash intermediate powerlifters over the
Mm-hmm.
course of 10 weeks and while they were preparing for a competition. And that was the first and pilot study of the PhD, which kind of inspired the rest of it.
Yeah.
And what we had these athletes do is we had two groups. One group was doing one set of one repetition, so only squat, bench, and deadlift, and they were
Mm-hmm.
doing one set of one repetition uh, at RPE 99.5. So there was no prescribed load. They
Mhm.
simply had to add weight to the bar until they felt like they reached an RPE of 99.5, and then they called it a day after that. And
Mhm.
the other group followed a more of a traditional powerlifting protocol, where they started off with um, weights. I don't remember the exact protocol off the top of my head, but it's available online. The study has been published as well,
Mhm.
and it's called. Well, I'll include a link for both at the end.
Yeah. No worries.
So what was this? Yeah, so they follow the traditional powerlifting protocol, starting off with like 70%, let's say, um, 1 RM, and doing multiple sets and slowly building up to heavier weights, less training volume. There was a taper at the end, and then they peaked. It's important to note that both groups and the whole team was preparing for an actual powerlifting competition. So they did their pre-testing um, at the in lab settings, let's say, and then the
Mhm.
post-testing was done in competition setting.
Mhm.
So at the actual competition. And what we found was that despite so the traditional powerlifting protocol group did better in competition. The group that was doing just the heavy singles did like so there were only 10 people in the study, and at the end they only ended up being 8 because some dropped out, so the sample was insanely small. So
Mhm.
we couldn't even look at inferential statistics. We just had to look at individual responses. But
Mhm.
what we saw was that in the group doing the heavy singles, around the 5 to 7 week mark, most, I think 4 out of 5 participants were hitting PRs
Mhm.
overall. So like they had increased their total around after 5 to 7 weeks, but they didn't do well on competition day. So some increased by a little bit, others decreased by a little bit, others didn't increase at all. Whereas the group that did the traditional periodized, a more traditional powerlifting protocol, they all either increased or stayed the exact same. So there was no decreases in performance.
Why do you think that was? Do you think it was because they were overreaching and the intensity of their sessions were way too high for the 1 rep max sort of group?
I think that it's a bit difficult to say because and that was that was one of the big limitations of the study,
Mhm.
that the competition setting, I think, affected the results of the study.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you know yourself as a strength athlete that the difference between lifting for a PR in the gym and in competition, there's a big difference in terms of the environment.
Yeah, massive, massive, massive difference.
Yeah, and many of those athletes were beginners for powerlifting standards, not strength wise,
Mhm.
but beginners slash intermediates, and some of them had only competed once before, or had only just done the qualifier because the competition that they did was where it was a national level competition, so it was the Creek Nationals
Mhm.
of that year. Uh, so it may have been that, poor attempt selection or even just the nerves of the day could have affected their performance. But it could have also been that because they were not experienced enough,
Mhm.
that the fact that they were not practicing the power lifts with enough training volume caused a small detraining effect,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And at the same time, we're running another. Um, we're running. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah.
That's really interesting. So well, obviously you have to take it with a pinch of salt, and it would need to be
Used.
replicated, and it need
Exactly.
to be bigger, like sort of sample size. But you can set that as a face value with people that are thinking, to get stronger, you need to come in and you need to PR every session, or you need to max out every session, which I'm pretty sure most people do when they start coming into the gym. But I
Mm.
mean that just shows that going onto a program if you're looking for strength. Going onto a program and just sticking with it is actually more beneficial in the long run, you know.
Definitely. And I mean, it's also so what you said, take it with a pinch of salt, is a big point. So again, as I
Mm-hmm.
said, this is a pilot study, very small, very small sample,
Mm-hmm.
and with some limitations. So does it tell us? Does it answer the question of what is the minimum effective training dose? No, by no means. Does it tell us a whole lot about how to train? No, definitely not. But can we perhaps take a slight hint that uh, if we were to do heavy singles um, at an RP 9 to 9.5, so heavy singles, but not
Mm-hmm.
maximum, not lifting to an absolute maximum a few times per week, could we possibly see strength increases over a certain period of time? So not, obviously not year round. And I think that it gives us a slight nudge, and that's why we're now following this up with a few more studies.
Yeah.
So the second study that we're doing, which is almost finished, includes 16 uh, highly trained powerlifters,
Mm-hmm.
all men, because including women is not obviously there's no discrimination there, but in
Mm-hmm.
order to, I mean, powerlifters, especially highly trained powerlifters, as I wanted to avoid the limitation of the first study, so the pilot study, which was the fact that some of them were beginners,
Mm-hmm.
or at least the majority of them were beginners, even maybe early intermediates.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Recruiting highly trained powerlifters for research, especially um, research that involves their training. So to tell a person that has been training for 10 years plus, okay, let me now take over your training. Are you going to do something that is a bit unorthodox, and it's not really a training protocol that anybody else has ever done before? I mean, yeah, it's not Zumba, but
Yeah.
it is unorthodox
Yeah.
in a certain way. It's not the easiest thing. So to include, to you know, to find women and also account for their menstrual cycle
Yeah.
would make things logistically very hard. But that's not to say that we're not going to be following up. So after I'm done with the PhD, my goal is to do a few studies trying to focus specifically on women, because data on strength trained women is even more limited than the already super limited field of strength trained men. Anyways, second study, 16 trained powerlifters doing the following protocols.
Mm-hmm.
One set of one rep at RP 99.5. And to note about the previous study, all participants in the previous study went through a 4 week, sorry, not a 4 week, they went through a period where they got familiar with the RPE scale.
Mm-hmm.
And the frequency of the heavy singles was a squat bench deadlift frequency of 231. So they squatted twice per week, benched 3 times per week, and deadlifted once per week. So they had day one, day two, and day three. On day one, they did squat and bench. Day two, they did deadlift and bench. And day three, they did squat and bench again.
Mm-hmm.
So that exact protocol for the second study. So the one group is doing the exact same thing. So squat bench deadlift 231, one rep at one set, one rep at RPE 99.5,
Mm-hmm.
versus another group doing the exact same thing, but after every top single, they have they have two back of sets of 3 repetitions at 80% of that single. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
So whatever they hit for their 9 to 9.5 RPE, they'd set 80% of that, and they'd do 2 sets of 3. Yeah.
that's the second study, which is almost finished. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one participant shy of finishing, and I can tell you, without I haven't run any stats, because we're waiting for the study to finish to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that from the participants so far, so from the 15 participants, everybody except one person has increased their total by the least is 12.5 kilos.
Wow.
The most is 100 kilos, but that's an outlier, so take that person out.
Yeah.
If he listens to the podcast, he knows who he is. But there are, I'll read you some total differences. So that's in 6 weeks. So because in the pilot study, we saw that in 5 to 7 weeks, people were experiencing, well, what we termed as at least meaningful strength changes. We decided to do the follow-up studies all around the mark of 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So in 6 weeks following, I mean, I'm not gonna sit and tell you which group did what, because yeah, it would be best to do so and compare groups after the study is completed and we run our analysis. But
Of course.
so one participant increased by 20 kilos, one by 40, one by 50, 7.5. Again, that's another outlier. 30 kilos, 15 kilos, 20 kilos, 12.5. That's the smallest increase. 27.5 kilos, 17.5 kilos, 15 kilos, 12.5 kilos, 100 kilos outlier, 35 kilos, and 20 kilos. So
That's all a decent increase in strength in 6 weeks. You know, that's obviously you'd take that any day of the week, wouldn't you?
yes, and it's interesting what you said. So you said that it's a decent increase, and as part of the PhD project, we're also running a survey, which basically asks powerlifters and powerlifting coaches what they regard as meaningful. So as a meaningful increase over 6 weeks, because there are beginners, like you are an experienced strength trainee, and if you can increase your total in 6 weeks, which is, as I'd like to express it to attract participants, it's just a month and 2 weeks. But
Yeah.
but yeah, in just over a month, if you can increase your total by 10, 15 kilos, yeah, that's great. I mean,
Mm.
some people, especially if you're natty and you've been training for a few years and you're not um, you're not planning on gaining a bunch of body weight,
Mm-hmm.
even 10 kilos. I know people that will tell you, yeah, 7.5 kilos would be more than enough. But if you were to ask a beginner could easily turn around and say, yeah, 40 kilos would be meaningful to me, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so follow-up study, and these were all strong people. There were not strong people and experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of experience, I mean, I cannot pull up any more details now because I haven't sorted everything out.
Of
But
course.
there were participants in there that had 10 plus years of experience, a couple that had 20 plus years of experience, and yeah, it will be very interesting to see what the data shows and whether that extra set, um, that extra two back-off sets made a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then we're following this study up with another two studies of similar design. Again, looking at heavy singles, but there's going to be a group also doing instead of doing a heavy single, they will be doing a set with 70% of their 1RM for maximum reps, or an AMRAP, until they reach RP 9 to 9.5. But yeah, at the moment we're finishing off with the study. So hopefully by the end we can we can kind of answer the question, or at least give a solid response of a solid response in um, not a definite response, but a response that says, look, we think that it's possible in 6 weeks to meaningfully increase your strength by doing this and this and that,
Yeah.
and kind of understand the minimum effective training dose a bit better.
That's really cool because it shows that you don't necessarily have to go to the gym and beat the living shit out of yourself to see
No,
results. You can actually go in and train a little bit smarter, and still get the meaningful results that you want.
exactly. And this has also been something that I've been spamming lately on social media, but as well as in real life, telling people that one thing many people underestimate is the power of consistency.
Hmm.
So, you know, yeah, it's great. A training protocol, a strength training protocol, or whatever, a protocol that is aimed to build strength as well as increase muscle hypertrophy. Um, might look amazing on paper, and you want to do three different exercises, and you want to uh, whatever include so many accessories, and go to the gym and train every muscle part 3 times for 4 times per week, whatever. I don't know, just I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah.
what some people regard as the most optimal approach and doing a ton, but um, people underestimate, I think, where most people fail to see results is the lack of consistency over the years. So I believe that even if you are doing a single set 2 to 3 times per week for per exercise, and you do a few exercises per body part, and you're reaching muscular failure, and you're spending only a few, you're spending 30 to 40 minutes in the gym, and you do that for the course of 10 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, your results are not going to be optimal. And, if you want to be a powerlifter or a strongman athlete, you cannot just do that. But if you're just looking to have, a solid physique, be relatively strong, and have that as a hobby or something to better the quality of your life, simply sticking with it for a long time and making it a habit is going to take you much further than if you were to try if you're trying to do the most optimal program, but it does not really fit with your lifestyle or your work schedule. And you've seen these people that start, you see them in the gym for 4 months, they're killing
Yeah,
it, they've
yeah.
made some gains, and then it's like, yeah, 2 months off, and then back again for another 2 months, and then another month off. And it's not that they don't maintain a solid physique or an okay strength, but it's that constant on and off that at the end they end up having the same results as if they were, yeah. Well, I
That's
spoke
it,
too
man.
much
And
there.
and I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said about the habit. It's all about making things a habit, so it is going to be a little bit more consistent, and you can continue with it for a longer period of time rather than just, smashing it and killing it and then dropping off the bandwagon and then getting in again and then dropping off again, and the cycle continues. And I think that does help with the studies that you've been doing, mate, but with the like minimal dose, because it does show that it's like, look, you don't have to be in there for like 2, 3, 4 hours or doing whatever. Like you can actually do minimal if you, like you said, you just want a pretty decent physique, be well-rounded, strong, and not be world class, but still be half decent. And you don't have to be in there for a long period of time. You can actually get your stuff done in a quite short period of time when it comes to your overall day, and then you can just leave and crack on with whatever else you got to do.
Exactly. And that's what our systematic review and meta-analysis found, is that currently we know that if you do, one set 2 to 3 times per week for the squat and the bench, put something relatively heavy on there, do 6 to 12 repetitions going or reaching failure, do that 2 to 3 times per week for up to 12 weeks for the
Hmm.
squat and the bench. At least, let's say for other exercises as well, let's assume.
Hmm.
Um, you make meaningful increases in strength.
Hmm.
Um, and for many, I mean, again, we have to, we must realize that not everyone wants to be the biggest and the strongest person in the world. Now,
Yeah, everyone's got their
there's
own
probably,
goals,
there's
right?
probably, yeah, there's probably people listening thinking who doesn't want to, and
Yeah.
I understand, but with so much information out there and so many different protocols and templates and YouTube channels promoting this and promoting methods and approaches. I feel like the average person who simply wants to have weight training as a health and sort of self-improvement tool,
Hmm.
understanding that okay, you can there is you can just do a bit, but do it with a plan and do it with purpose and with maximal effort and
Hmm.
keep that over a certain period of time, and you're going to get meaningful results.
Exactly. Just making it a habit and making it consistent, you know.
Yeah,
It's so powerful and but people just want it now, you know. They want to pop a pill and they've got the results yesterday.
yeah, and it's sometimes and like don't get me wrong, um, there's no bias in terms of that's not the way I like to train. For example, I love being in the gym and I like doing multiple sets and
Hmm.
being in the gym for 2 and 3 hours. But that's what I like.
Hmm.
So it's not like yeah, I've been training this way and I'm telling people yeah you should train this way.
Hmm.
But it's exactly what you said. It's people do not understand that. It will take time, it will take habits, and it's not anything complex. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes, that's true. It's not easy because it takes time and it takes a lot of effort, you know. Like you can't just go in and tickle the bar and it'll end up floating up to wherever you want to and finish the lift. You know, you have to actually put in the effort. Like that one set, for example, is gonna suck. It's not gonna be pleasant. It's gonna hurt
Exactly,
you.
and
Um,
that's why. But then there again, I'd understand that some people may say, "Oh yeah, I don't feel like doing the one set. I'd rather spend more time in the gym and do 3 sets because I don't like the feeling of discomfort," which I'd say is also a fair game.
mhm. Yeah, like I mean, I know for me, I like being in the gym like yourself. Um, it's my church. I'll say that all the time. Like it's my church. It's where I just sort of zone out from everything, and I get to just take it out on the weights that are in front of me. You know, so I like to be in there, but I know people don't necessarily enjoy it that much, and you know have a busy schedule and whatever. And it's really cool seeing the minimal dose to get some actually decent gains. I think that's really interesting, man.
Yeah, thank you. And
How'd you get into it, mate? Like how did you get into the strength side? Did you play any sports? Did you have you always trained? When did you get into training and how'd you get into it?
so as a kid, I was never very into sports. I was never. I mean, I always played some kind of sport. I did. I played a bit of football. Football meaning soccer, so
Hmm.
the European definition. Played a bit of rugby at school,
Hmm.
but I went to a boarding school in Germany, and my flatmate at the time and one of my current best friends I was into martial arts, and we had bought a set of dumbbells. So it's kind of a romantic story. No, no
Yeah.
homo, but
You sure?
yeah, yeah. No, it's okay, okay. No, but romantic in the sense of the iron, not of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
my friendship. But we had a set of dumbbells, and we would do this very scientific workout of doing dumbbell curls before sleeping.
Yeah.
And just that, nothing else. I would do that, and we had a school gym, and then I started going. I was intimidated by the gym and anything physical when I was a kid. I was also smoking and drinking and all that kind of bullshit you do when you're 15,
Of course.
16, or at least experimenting, right? And
Hmm.
but I was very out of shape, and I started going to the school gym liked, and it was the first time I really enjoyed something physical, and I enjoyed that I had full control over um, what I was doing, kind of. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm here. Nobody's telling me what to do. I can come, kind of whenever I want, stay as long as I want, and I like the feeling of the pump. Classic
The
now. As I said,
the
the
pump.
pump, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the quote, the usual. I feel like it's so overused. I don't even want to make the joke. But from then onwards, I then started training. I was fat at the time, so
Hmm.
I was like 110 kilos, but untrained.
Hmm.
Started training. Decided to do like a big YOLO cut a year later. Did it, went down to like 80 kilos,
Nah.
skinny. but I was like eating 1,000 calories a day, jogging. I had no idea. So,
Yeah.
and then it was more like bodybuilding, not really, not actual bodybuilding, but it was like lifting to get bigger for the looks, for the this, for that. Um, until I started my bachelor's in Southampton, moved to Southampton, started getting a bit more scientific with it,
Mhm.
started looking at powerlifting, strength training, learning how to squat, fell in love with squatting, and then I got to know about powerlifting from a few friends, got involved in powerlifting, and fell in love with strength training in general.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's definitely. I really do kind of wish that I would been introduced to it earlier. My sort of introduction to training was like you just pick it up until you can't pick it up anymore. You rest until you can pick it up again, and you just keep doing that.
yeah.
And obviously, like yourself, like you just kind of like figure some shit out and make all the mistakes. But I kind of think that's what you need to
For
do
sure, man. For sure.
in a
First
sense.
first year of training, we weren't training legs.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was not training triceps. I mean, I was benching, but I
Yeah.
wasn't doing any. And I was doing some sort of, I think, dumbbell overhead. But and like squats is my thing, my favorite exercise. But
Yeah.
I remember the first 3 years of training, it was a complete, but it was also a huge eye opener later on because I realized how little like bodybuilders know. Well, at least the majority of bodybuilders know. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the few crazy in the most positive meaning natural bodybuilders that get super nerdy with it and squat and bench and do overhead press and all kinds of stuff, and their technique is on point. But like at that time when I was starting and I was looking up to the more commercial bodybuilders,
Hmm.
like I was so confused that like nobody was actually explaining why they were doing what they were doing, what they were doing.
Hmm.
You could see um, whatever, take any of them. You'd see them in the gym, and it was like okay, sets to failure, and then they had some guy with them. They take off one plate, and I thought I had to go to the gym every time and get annihilated. Otherwise, it didn't count.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm pretty sure it was the same for you as well. There was no the concept of deloads was not a thing,
Yeah.
um, and it
D-
would you
Deloads for pussies, right? That's what. And rest days for weak people. Like it was
yeah,
like,
man, it
nah,
was those memes.
get in the gym and work hard, sort of thing. And like,
Yeah, I hate the work hard thing. That like yeah, you have to work hard, but you have to work smart, especially if you're natty.
yeah,
Like also looking up to. Uh, elite bodybuilders who are at the top of the top
yeah,
um, genetically and are also on steroids. Now, I don't know if the doses are extreme or not, but I think that's beyond the point because of their elite genetics. It's like, cool, bro, these dudes, yeah, okay, you can all become Mr. Olympia by doing whatever, but if you are in the genetic elite and you're on stuff, you can do a bunch of shit and be pretty jacked and look
yeah,
extreme, at least for the eyes of an 18-year-old who's just getting into it you know. And it was a huge reality check later on when I learned about strength training and that, gotta start slowly, build up, kind of overreach and then take your foot off the gas and let fatigue go down and then start building again. And I was like, wow, okay. Back then I was training to failure, doing like 3 hit workouts as well. Remember when hit was became a thing?
yeah, man. I remember reading some shit where it was like a 4 week, 4 minute program where you do this workout. I think every day for 4 weeks. It takes you 4 minutes and you'll have like it'll melt the fat from your stomach or
Yeah,
some shit. And I was just like, you just think about these things. You're like, oh dear. Like I remember, like I played rugby and we used to hit the weight room before we used to do fitness training in the summer. So I think we must have spent like 2 hours in the weight room just wrecking each other. And then we went out and we basically did sprints and carries and whatever for 2 hours, and then after those 2 hours we could start playing a game. And literally just like, how did I not die?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, no wonder I'd get home and I would just collapse on the stairs, and I'd just be like, have to eat my food on the stairs because I can't move my
Exactly.
legs, you know.
I feel you. I feel you full on. I was a
Uh,
smoker as well at the time, so I was smoking cigarettes,
yeah.
and I was doing those hit workouts, and I was doing like three of those, and being on a deficit, and
Ugh.
like looking back at it, I'm like, and I wasn't squatting again. I was squatting, but maybe like once a week and for a couple of sets, and
Yeah.
yeah. And now I'm at the point where I'm training 3 times per week,
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I mean, the majority of my work is in on compound movements.
Yeah.
It's like 3 full body sessions per week.
Hmm.
I still go, I go pretty hard every session, but there is something to training. I mean, currently because I'm studying and working and all the BS I said at the beginning, it's not like it's insanely structured because I have to be enjoying training as well. Because at the end of the day, I'm not training to go to the Olympics.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and the difference now in terms of results and overall enjoyment and fatigue are way better back
Yeah,
then.
man. Like I remember, like you, obviously we go to the gym to be able to like improve our life, right? Um, and you can only really get away with like coming away from the gym fatigued if you are going for like the elite of the elite, and then that is your job, you know. So you are going to be fatigued from it. But I remember like coming away from training, and I can't function as a human because I've trained so hard, you know, and you're just so malnourished and under recovered, and it's mad.
It's that as well. The when cutting, like I now because I recently did like a 2 year cut where I lost well recently finished the cut
Mm,
of 2 years losing 35 kilos. And I remember when I was cutting back in the day where it would be like, okay, I'm cutting, therefore I need to up everything, training
mm,
volume, 4 hit training sessions a week, decrease calories. And
mm,
it's like now it was the exact opposite. Training hard and heavy 3 times per week, but not too much. And if I felt tired during the workout, I'd skip some accessories. Did I
mm.
do my heavy squat and my heavy press? Yeah. I'm not really gonna focus on the accessories because I feel fatigued.
Yeah,
Calories as high as possible. And
yeah,
yeah, it's funny once you the more you learn, the more you cringe at the YOLO of the back end. But at the same time, we're able to sit here and say these stories, and it wouldn't it wouldn't be fun if I mean I don't know, maybe it would, but it wouldn't be as fun if you started the optimal way and you were like, oh yeah, I started. And I have some friends that started that way because we met and I got them into strength training, and their first sessions at the gym they were all doing the right stuff.
yeah, man. You have to be able to like fuck up, don't you? Really, to be able to know the right way about it.
Yeah,
That's so true, man.
gang.
It's so true. Just just learn from your mistakes. But hopefully we can sort of show our mistakes a little bit to people, and then they don't have to make the same ones that we did, and then hopefully down the line, generations to come, like we're a little bit more knowledgeable on this whole topic.
Yeah, inshallah.
Yeah, man. All right, man. I'm gonna have to shoot off. I've got shit to do. So thank you very, very much for that.
I don't have shit to do. Let's chill here and speak for another 3 hours.
Yeah,
All
well, we could do. Um, yeah,
right, no, it's been a pleasure. Apologies for the. At some point I was talking. I had like a full glass of water next to me, and at some point I was talking so much. I was like, "Whoa, my mouth is dry."
all right,
But
man.
yeah, thank you for having me on.
Of course, brother.
We can do that again, and obviously when I have more data on the minimum effective training dose, which will be soon. I mean, at least in the next year.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to jump on again and discuss some of our results and our findings.
that'd be awesome, man. That'd be absolutely awesome.
All
Right,
right, my
mate.
man.
Take it easy, man. Um,
Bless. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Enjoy.
And enjoy as well.
Take it easy.